Okay, welcome to my video on ratio, rates, and proportions. Okay, this is just an introductory. We're going to hit this a whole lot more this week. This is a new unit talking about ratios, rates, and proportions. Now, you're going to see ratios look a whole lot like what we've just been dealing with, which has been fractions. So think of them a little bit like operations with fractions, but they're a little different. They're kind of their own special subset. So you got this in class. All you need to do is fold it in half to where it looks like this. Tomorrow we'll cut along this edge so it has flaps, but you don't have to do that yet. I have a calculator with me to do some calculations, but you're probably pretty safe just watching the video without a calculator. I also am going to use some highlighters of different colors to just kind of jazz it up and make our bodies and our minds remember this more. Okay, so we're first going to talk about ratios. Ratios, let's define it. What is the definition of a ratio? It is a comparison. Whoop, helps if I spell right. A comparison of two numbers. No more than two, it has to be two numbers. Alright, I'm going to kind of pull some things off. So, only two numbers. Alright, so like looking at this first example right here. This is a ratio of stars to circles. And it is very important the way you state them. If you want to talk about stars first, you have to write it ratio of stars to circles. Because with ratios, order matters. Because you're comparing two things, and that's what comparison means. You're comparing two things. For example, boys to girls, or dogs to cats, apples to oranges, stars to circles. Now, you can also go the other way, and I could compare circles to stars. So, the example I gave you was stars to circles, which is 2 stars for every 3 circles. But if I did the opposite of that and I asked what was the ratio of circles to stars, it would be 3 to 2. So it's okay if it is flip-flopped. You have to really pay attention to the words. That's what kind of makes this hard. So we're going to talk about the ways to write a ratio. There's 3 ways. The most common is word form, which is 3 to 2. How it was in our example, that is the most common, and it's the word form. So we're just going to write word. It's the word form. Then in math, the most common, the easiest way is the fraction form, which is just putting the 2 in the numerator spot and 3 in the denominators and considering this kind of like the 2 word. So this is the fraction form. This is what I will use the most because it's easiest to deal with calculations. But both of these are perfectly correct. Then the third way is the least used, but it uses this colon. This is a little symbol, the little thing that's between time. It's a colon. And it is, you should automatically read that colon as 2. So if I was reading this, it would be 2, 2, 2, 3. Okay? Sorry about my pausing and my breathing. I apologize. Okay, now, ratio is a big deal, and we're going to practice a whole lot more on ratios. They're very important. But there is a special kind of ratio that we're also going to cover called a rate. Rate is a special kind of ratio. So it is a ratio that compares 2 things. And it puts them in different units. The difference between just a normal ratio and a rate is a rate has to have a measurement of some sort. For example, my example here is miles and hours. Is miles a measurement? Yes. Is hours a measurement? Yes, it's a measurement of time. It could be feet to inches. It could be minutes per second, or there's many more. We're actually going to talk about differentiating the two tomorrow. We're going to do a Venn diagram. Okay, so there's also another, let's go one step down, into a special kind of rate that is a unit rate. Unit means one. So I'm going to write equals 1. You put the rate into the lowest terms for 1. For example, 100 miles in 2 hours, that is a division symbol. Think of it always like that. So 100 divided by 2 and you get 50. 50 for 1 hour. This is going to be later on this week that we're going to really talk about rates. So if you're a little confused about unit rate and how to find the calculation, that's totally okay, and we're gonna clear up these misconceptions. All right. For you 6th graders, you're probably never seen a proportion. It looks like this. For you 7th graders, you dealt a lot with it last year. So you know what a proportion is. You know it's an equation that it has two equal ratios. Okay? So it's not normally rates because it doesn't have units attached to it. So it's just usually two ratios, and they have to equal one another. That's what that equal sign means. So if I were to think about it, 25 times what could equal 100? Well, 25 times 4 equals 100. Sorry, it's hard to read. So times 4. So 10 times 4, let me get my calculator back out. 10 times 4 equals 40. So that is true. That is a true statement. That 10 25ths or 10 to 25 is the same as 40 to 100. Notice how I said this was a 2, because the TO, that's how you write ratios. All right. In a proportion, if the ratios are equivalent, then the cross products are equal. Okay, what that means, if I multiply across, let me get my highlighters out so you can see a little bit. So if I multiply 10 times 100 and 25 times 40, so I'm going to actually kind of write that right here. 10 times 100 should equal 25 times 40. Well, let's check it. 25, times 40 equals 1,000. And 10 times 100 should equal 1,000, and it does. So, indeed, those are a proportion. I know you already knew this, but that's how cross products work. Again, this is much later. Really, I want you to focus on what a ratio is, and when you come in tomorrow, I want you to remember the 3 ways. That's what I'm going to ask you when you walk in. What are the 3 ways to write a ratio? And remember, it is a comparison of 2 things. Think of boys to girls or cats to dogs. So, when you come in, make sure you know the 3 ways to write a word in fraction form or in the colon form. Okay, thanks.